Okay, guys, so welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Invest in Passively in US Multifamily Show. I'm your host, Jefferson Ortiz, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jonathan Ortiz. We're here to partner up with passive investors and help them acquire large multifamily properties in the Sunbelt region, in the Midwest, in the USA. Today, we have a very special guest who is an expert in the field of international investments and immigration.
That's right, Jeff. And we're honored to have you, Lauren, with us today. So thank you for being here today. We're very excited to have you. Lauren is an international attorney and the chair of international investments for EXP Commercial, which is very impressive, and the founder of Investing Across Borders, a full service across border investment and immigration advisory company. So welcome to the show, Lauren.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So before we, kind of get into the discussion of international investments, immigrations, could you share a bit of background on yourself? Just tell us, the listeners a little bit of your story. What led you to establish investing across borders?
Sure. So I'm originally from Toronto, which is not too far from you guys in Hamilton, right?
Yep.
And I grew up there, and I moved to Florida originally in the 90s. I moved back to Canada in 1990. Maybe you guys weren't even born, but anyway, in 97, I moved back, and it was very challenging because I lived in Florida and, experienced the warmth, and I moved back, and I lived in Thornhill, and I worked in Mississauga, and I was driving along 427 one day, and I said to my mom, I don't think I can handle this, Mom. I just don't think I can handle it. So I came back to Florida in 2001 to start a business. I lost a lot of money right before 9/11, and then in 2007, my then husband was deported on the way back from our honeymoon. And when that happened, I realized that there was a need for somebody that understood immigration law and how it impacts people. And that person was me. So I decided to pursue a career in immigration, helping people avoid the challenges that they often face. And since I'm a licensed realtor as well as a cross-border lawyer and a franchise broker, my signature program is actually called How to Immigrate Through Real Estate. And I think I met Jefferson through that program because obviously he's interested in investing in real estate in the US, and you guys have some extensive investments. We kind of built a whole program around how to use real estate as a path to immigrate. But we also work with investors that are just setting up the structure and don't want to pay the CRA and the IRS and everybody else, but would rather keep the money in their pockets.
Wow, that's quite the story, Lauren. They deported your husband from your honeymoon? Can you talk a little bit about that? That sounds rough. I'm sure it was also a bit of a motivation.
Yeah, I have to think on that, huh? Sure. So we went on our honeymoon to Thailand, and I was, unbeknownst to me, my then husband, who I just married, was actually inadmissible, but I didn't know that. And he was in the process of supposedly getting his visa, and I was in the process of getting my green card. So on the way back at Chicago O'Hare Airport, they said to me, your husband this is what they literally did, okay? I mean, I couldn't make this up. They went like this. Your husband has gone like this to the US government. I know that you can't see this on the podcast one too many times. And we're going like this right back again, okay? So I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I was like dumbfounded. I was first of all thrown by how high-handedly they were acting. It was like demeaning and rude. And they said, you can go over there. And they, stamped my thing, and they said, he's not coming with you. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? So I flew from Chicago to Miami, and they flew him back to Narita, Japan, which is where we had flown in from. And they deported him. First they put him in immigration jail, then they deported him, and then they expeditiously removed him, deported him, and said, he's inadmissible. And I was like, this is really interesting. I just got married to the guy. So, needless to say, it was a very unusual way to start a marriage, and he ended up moving back to Canada, and the marriage never should have been, but there was a reason for it, and I think the reason was honestly to push me to do what I do today, and so I help prevent other people from going through a similar fate.
Wow, that is a very unique and interesting story. So thank you for sharing that, Lauren.
Course.
Lauren, we're curious to learn more about your professional journey. Can you tell us about the experience and milestones that have shaped you and your expertise in the international investment and immigration sector?
Sure. So first, I think it was that experience that forced me to push doors. And I spoke to the top rabbis and the top congressional, heads of departments and senators and you name it, state senators, federal. I became very close with a lot of active public officials, and I just realized how much red tape was involved in the immigration system. And I also was an entrepreneur. So as an entrepreneur, I had written many, many business plans. So I started putting together all of these different things because a lot of lawyers are just lawyers, no offense to any lawyers. A lot of business people know very little about the law, okay? And never a trade shall meet, right? So I decided to couple my business experience and expertise and acumen with my immigration and legal background, and specifically personal, practical, and less unfortunate experiences that shape us. And I wrote the book actually behind me called Finding Our Silver Lining in the Business Immigration Process, because I found my silver lining. And that silver lining was really pushing together all of these components. I got my real estate license right after I got my green card, and just realizing that there were so many, especially Canadian real estate investors, that wanted to live and work in the US, or even if they don't want to live here, they want a social security number so they can benefit from the 1031 exchange, or they want to access all kinds of different opportunities that you can't access when you're a foreign national and you don't have status in the country. So probably 20% of my clients still live in Canada mostly, or in the UK or wherever they're from, but they have the opportunity to come and go freely to the US, run their businesses, develop their businesses, shake hands with the people, have boots on the ground, visit the properties, see what they're investing in, and do the things that they need to do. So there were so many different milestones that happened, but really it was just a combination. And then, to be honest with you, COVID happened. And COVID at first was devastating, okay? As it was for many, but for me, I was doing cross-border stuff. Well, nobody was going across any borders at the beginning of COVID, okay? So I had to do a pivot, and I helped people get money from the Small Business Administration. And in doing that, I started to kind of build a tribe of followers, especially other immigration lawyers. And since I had written so many business plans, again, it was circumstances that just kind of pushed all of these things together. And when Canada had the mask mandate and all the rules, and people were getting frustrated and fed up and realizing the cap rates were low, the ROI was low, I want to invest south of the border, how do I do it? And how do I get out of this place because I'm fed up with all of the whatever. We won't go down that road, okay? So there was a lot of positives, especially last year, that came from COVID. That was really what happened.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting because kind of our earlier journey started also kind of in the midst of COVID. So our journey also started in the midst of COVID. So obviously there's a lot of people that died from COVID. There's a lot of negative, obviously, that you could look for it, but it also created a lot of opportunities for folks, like yourself, folks like ourselves, to pivot, to start a new business, to help other people, right? And I think you've mentioned that a few times, that you're in the business of helping people, right? And I think that's really important, especially when being an entrepreneur, is to have something where you have a product or service and where you're helping other people, where that's kind of your main mission. Now, something to kind of just ask you, so I guess you've seen that there was a need in the real estate investment side of things. Like how many different folks, how many different, how do I want to word this? How many different things is there that people that want to move to the States? Like some people want to move to the States for work, some people want to move to the States for studying, right? Some people want to move to the States for investing. So tell us a little bit about that, how you found your niche in that space, in regards to like real estate investors.
Well, so my mom was in real estate in Toronto when I was growing up. I was always interested in real estate. small-time real estate investor, and I just saw this unfilled gap because, as I mentioned earlier, most immigration lawyers and even immigration itself says, oh, you can't, and you certainly can't passively invest in real estate and get a visa. Okay, so I want to be clear: passive real estate investing will not get you a visa. Active real estate investing will. So my superpower turned out to be turning that passive real estate investor into an active real estate business owner. Because even passive investors may indeed be actively running a business around their passive investing. We have to find that missing piece, because that missing piece is what's going to get them access to the visa. Okay, we developed a separate business called Strategic REI. It's a business in a box where we build the business around the real estate investing, so you don't need as many doors or as much volume to qualify for the visa, because you're building a business almost like a franchise around the real estate investing. So my partner Carolyn Gallardo out of Calgary and I developed this about a year and a half ago, and it's taken off like gangbusters. And it's very, very limited number of clients, because it's very hands-on, like most of our services. So we take on usually 1 to 2 clients a quarter, and it's by invitation only. But really what it came down to was, I knew from writing all these business plans for real estate investors that there was a way to turn that passive business into an active, or passive investor into an active business owner. And I knew how to kind of find that little missing piece that allowed us to get the visa.
Wow. Well, what's really interesting, like we actually get that question quite a bit from passive investors, Canadian passive investors that ask us about passive investing. Hey, will this give me a green visa? Hey, will this give me, a green card? And kind of like as per your point, we tell them it's not going to get you a visa because you're not, like you said, an active investor, but there is way around, like you're starting to build, kind of the momentum. Obviously, everybody has different goals. If they don't have any plans to live in the US, then that's a totally different thing. But I think, it definitely helps them at least get their feet wet and get started in the US with much safer assets, I would say, as opposed to Canada. Okay, no, that's great. I appreciate sharing that. Now, Lauren, legal considerations are crucial when it comes to international investments, of course. Could you elaborate on the legal aspects that individuals need to navigate when investing across borders, and how investing across borders supports clients in this area?
You were asking about legal. So, as Canadians, one of the first legal considerations is tax, which is a legal consideration, because we don't want to pay all of our income to the CRA or the IRS. So you have to set up your legal structure properly to avoid that. Now, when you're investing passively, it's less problematic than when you're investing actively. And in either case, you still want to make sure that you set up your structure properly. And it's not one size fits all. There's generally a way to do it that works, but it's not always consistently exactly the same cookie cutter. So the key is that everything that we do, whether you're just investing or you want a visa or both, is the highest common denominator.
No, totally makes sense. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And just for folks listening, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about, some of the structure that we have for Canadians that want to invest with us, visit our website, Ortiz Equity Group, and you guys will be able to see some of our webinars, some of the things that we've done where we showcase Canadians, how we personally do it. I like Lauren says, it's not a one size fits all. Everybody's different, but that's just the best way in which we work with some professionals to set that up. So I just wanted to add that on there.
Absolutely, it's important to have the right team in place. Not just law, okay, and it's not just any lawyer. It's not just any accountant. It's somebody that has that cross-border background and understands what's needed, because if you go to a US accountant to set up, or a US lawyer that doesn't know about Canadian stuff, they don't care what happens to you in Canada. They're only advising you on what's cool in the US, and that may not work in Canada. Actually, it seldom does. So they may have the best professional at the top law firm or accounting firm, but if they don't understand that there's an implication for you north of the border, you're out of luck.
Right on point. That's a really good point.
Lauren, I wanted to touch base on the cross-border transactions that often come with their own set of challenges. What are some of the most common obstacles faced by individuals when they're engaging in international investments and immigration?
I know
So
you.
the first
I know you said taxes. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I know you said taxes, but yeah, definitely.
taxes, and then you've got status, lack of status, and without status, you may not be able to get financing. And how do you get the financing? Well, it's like a vicious cycle because one leads to another. Because you need financing to make the investment, to leverage your investment. You can't get financing without something. You may not have the right guidance. You may get the wrong entity set up, and then suddenly, like if you have an LLC, if you end up paying, the CRE disregards it, so you end up paying taxes if you had nothing at all. So it's just the biggest challenge you face is having bad advice, relying on that advice, and not going to the table on equal footing. So people, I think way too many people, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, they'll say, oh, I can set up an LLC for $1,000 or $500. Thank you, good luck, I wish you luck. Well, how come this one charges this much and you charge that much? Because we are full service. As Jefferson knows, and I haven't spoken with you as much, John, but as Jefferson knows, we come in and look at the whole thing. It's holistic, your whole picture. What are you doing? Where are you doing it? What are your goals? And if you just want to invest, what if maybe in the future you want a visa? What if you want to build your business? What if you get stopped at the border? How does that look? How do you avoid the problem? What do you not say at the border? What do you say? How much do you want to give away? How much do you want to keep close to your belt? These are all factors to consider. Do you want to have children in the U.S.? Do you want to give them opportunities to go to school in the U.S., for example?
Wow, those are some really, really good points. And I really like, and I know when we talked originally, Lauren, you had mentioned to me that, you really got to kind of look at your overall goals, right? And I know, obviously, for ourselves, me and John, one of our goals is to kind of relocate fully to the U.S. and be like, be living there essentially, have that dual visa. And you mentioned a couple of different ways in which we could do that. And I think, kind of as per your point earlier, that's the importance of working with an experienced team that focuses on that specific niche, as opposed to just like a cross-border that doesn't really focus with investors per se, right? That's not going to give you the same advice. They're not going to lay out things the same way yourself would do it, because you're in that space. So no, that's a really good point. Anything you want to add, John?
No, absolutely. I think when you're setting up the structure and getting advice from an experienced team like yourself, you got to pay the buck to make sure that you're getting the right advice, the right team under your wing to make sure that it's able to push you forward and make you be successful.
Absolutely. Now, Lauren, I know obviously you were in Toronto, or you live in Toronto, and now you're in the US. What have you seen? Have you seen like a kind of like a trend going on that a lot of folks are starting to prefer the US in terms of investment opportunities? What are some opportunities that folks, obviously we preach and teach multifamily, but what are some of the opportunities that you're seeing internationally in real estate markets, and how investing across borders helps clients identify and capitalize on these opportunities?
Everybody wants a piece of multifamily. You know this. It's a fact, okay? It's definitely the most popular industry in general and for my clients. It's also the easiest way to get a visa in multifamily. But I have tons of clients, especially since a lot of my clients invest in Florida, and I want to be very clear that not all of my clients invest in Florida. We invest everywhere. I have a client I just referred to a realtor in South Carolina, for example. But the important thing is, like Airbnb, very big. Short and medium, not so much long term. Short and medium are big areas. Themed properties, a very big field that we work in the Orlando area especially. In South Florida, condo hotels and some other locations in Florida. Lots of burrs and fix and flips. Lots of that going on, certainly. And I think that as the market shifts, there's going to be more of that because opportunities are going to open. So, and a lot of commercial as well, like self-storage and mobile home parks. Like those are big opportunities in the US, and affordable too, very affordable.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one of the main reasons why we, obviously we being Canadian, strategically focus in the US, like what we've seen is obviously the vehicle that we're going after being large multifamily. There is just no inventory like that in Canada. It just doesn't exist. One. Second point, because of the business plan, which our business plan is usually buy something that is value add, strategically do renovations, increase the rent. It's hard to execute a business plan in Canada because of the landlord rules that we have. So
that's a big one.
Yeah,
huge, the landlord. I mean, it's so landlord focused, and here it's much more much more landlord friendly. And people want to invest in landlord friendly states like Florida, like Texas, like Arizona.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, some of the biggest companies that I know are starting to focus more in the US, especially for that reason, right? Because you're not dealing with the landlord rules that we have in Ontario. I almost feel like it's a riskier asset class to buy if you buy multifamily in Ontario or in Canada per se, just because of that, right? You're not able to execute on your business plan. If your plan was to turn over 50% of the units, are you going to be able to accomplish that? I think it's a gamble. Where in the US, it's straight. This is what it is. This is when the leases come up for renewal. You're in control, and I think that's something that our investors are seeing, that we're seeing as well. Anything you want to add to that, John?
Yeah, for sure. What we wanted to ask Lauren, just kind of like a fun question here to keep it as fun as we can keep it here. If you could invest in real estate anywhere in the world without any limitations, where would it be and why?
Wow, that's a good question. I think it would be Israel, because there is huge value add in Israel. Lots of untapped markets, lots of new developments going on. Prices are go completely insane. So probably that's where.
That's really
Israel. That's new. We've never heard of that. So that's interesting. We know nothing about Israel or real estate.
It's an amazing real estate market. You can't touch most properties for under $1 million. Tiny little property.
Oh wow, that's really, it's so interesting. I'm curious, just because we're in the subject. Is there a lot of opportunity for multifamily out there, or is mostly
no? I mean, there's you can buy apartment buildings, and there are it's kind of interesting because everything is like apartments, or a lot of the housing seems like apartments, but they're multi-level apartments and they're individually owned.
Okay.
It's just a very different real estate market with very different rules. Very different.
Oh wow. Okay. And then we have two fun questions that we usually do during our podcast. So the second question is, obviously we talked a lot about your professional journey and accomplishments, but now for the other second fun question, if you were to start in a real estate themed reality TV show, what would it be called and what would be the premise? I know we didn't prepare you for this, but
I think honestly, I think what I do would be what I can't think of anything better, because I really love what I do. Like the other day, somebody asked me, "Are you bored yet?" And I'm like, "No, I've only just begun," because there's, every few days I come up with some new idea, and the key is to hone them in and not let the squirrels get in our way. But I love what I do. I think the only thing I'd like to do more of is helping people from other countries besides Canada.
Wow.
But it's just a natural fit because I am Canadian, I speak Canadian, and people trust me because of that. And I really go above and beyond, maybe because you guys are my people, I don't know. But I've never turned away a client from another country. It's just that the Canadian mentality is similar to mine. But a reality show, I think it would have to be investing across borders, but international, because I've had clients invest in Belize and Honduras and Israel and France. Just the other day I had a client that's investing in France, and India and Mexico, certainly Costa Rica, so you name it.
Wow, that's really, and I definitely, that would be an interesting show. I think a lot of people would get massive value from it. Just from seeing it, people that may be interested, I think, again, I know we're not going to get political, but what's going on in Canada, the leadership that we have, it's just driving a lot of people away. And there's I just seen a report today that there was like a massive amount of new people that just came into Canada, and they're sleeping outside because they just can't. There was a program that was supposed to help them, and that program is no longer being funded. Yet they're sending out another 500 million to Ukraine. So, anyways, not the political. I wanted to add to that. It's unbelievable what's been happening over there.
They're going to be very cold very soon, aren't they?
Lauren, I wanted to dig a little bit and shift over your portfolio. Tell us a little bit about Lauren's. Currently, are you investing anywhere, or tell us a little bit?
I do. I have a few investments at any given time, not a lot, but enough to just keep me busy. Most of them are fix and flips. Some of them are. I have one that's just a condo hotel. And I'm actually investing in another condo hotel for my own personal use as well.
In Florida?
Pardon me?
In Florida?
Yeah.
Nice.
On the beach.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. We were just in Florida last couple months ago. We were down in Sarasota, and that was actually our first time in Florida. We absolutely loved it. I'm like, I understand why everybody's moving to Florida.
Lots of clients in that area, they choose there more than here because it's less expensive and
it's gorgeous too.
Nice. Yeah,
it's just beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then Laura, just obviously, based on your background and based on what you're seeing, what are some of your predictions for the market? I know obviously interest rates are crazy. I just want to know kind of what your perspective. What do you see?
I am praying that the Florida market drops a bit because I need to buy a house for myself because I sold last year. Okay, so selfishly, I'm praying for that, and also this way we can buy into opportunities and present them to our clients.
Absolutely.
Do I think that's what's going to happen? Well, I don't know. The interest rates went up again yesterday in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, it's an interesting market. I mean, like you said, praying is the right answer. I think I personally feel like Florida is not going to get impacted so much on the rents. I think rents are still going to continue to go up. But I do, the insurance is crazy. We were working on a deal out in Daytona Beach, 200 plus unit apartment complex. And we got all the way to the last and final. But before that, we had done a quote for insurance per unit, right? So 200 units. We got a quote about 950, and then maybe a month and a half passed by. We got to file last and final with another team, and we then got a quote, and it went up to $1,500 per unit. So
yeah, it's insane and yesterday a company just dropped another, I think 500,000 homeowners. So the problem is that my company that I was with my home, I was scheduled to close last July 1st, and we got a notice that they were dropping insurance on June 30th. So, and there was nothing I could do. Now, who was going to buy an insurance for a day? Nobody. So I managed to work it out because I was doing a lease back for a month. So I managed to work it out with the homeowner, the new homeowner, because he was doing it 1031. So he didn't care. He wasn't going to live there. I was paying him, and I managed to do something where I just paid him for the day of insurance because there was nobody that was. It was insane. For like a week, I was trying to find alternative insurance. It wasn't even there wasn't even an option.
No.
And now they're not insuring homes if you don't have the roof has to be 5 years old or less. And there's all these restrictions on it. So I'm looking at these homes, and like yesterday, I looked at a house here in Delray Beach, Florida. The current homeowner, is putting a new roof on because he can't sell it. Wow. So he's putting the new roof on before he even sells it.
Wow. Yeah. So that's definitely what we're seeing is obviously the insurance being impacted, significant taxes as well. But I think that's across everywhere, Canada, US, it doesn't matter. But Florida specifically, that's what we've noticed.
Yeah.
The insurance is just not making the numbers kind of make sense or work out. But no, I agree with you. It's insane out there.
Insane.
So, Lauren, can you tell the audience a little bit about some of your short and long-term goals with your company and what you vision?
Oh my. Okay. So yes, my short-term goal would be to continue to help Canadians, but as I mentioned, also expand to help more Colombians and Mexicans and South Americans in general to access the same opportunities, because there's a lot of demand and not a lot of supply. And to really bring the value proposition that we offer to a wider spectrum of people, especially in Canada, because you've got, 35 million people, and about 10% of those people probably are interested in what we're offering. We need to get to that 10%, okay? So that's why I do things like today, right? So my long-term goal would be, I think I'm actually achieving it now because I'm able to work from anywhere. I just traveled for 6 weeks. That's how I got sick. And I had my laptop and people were making fun of me. Like on the ship, they were like, when are you working? I'm like, because I can. I wasn't working all day, every day. I was working for an hour a day and I was 7 hours ahead. So for the most part, nothing was happening in this side of the world while I was over there visiting all these sites, right? So that's the kind of lifestyle that I envision, helping thousands instead of hundreds of people to accomplish what we are helping people accomplish in our business, bringing more real estate investors into the fold, and achieving a world where people can really pursue their international investment and immigration goals with ease, success, and confidence, while knowing that our team truly has their back, but really having that impactful, that impact-driven mission of bringing people through the process painlessly instead of them being fearful every step of the way.
Wow, that's very meaningful.
That's amazing. No, I love the impact. I love the value and how you're trying to help people and your expertise. That's amazing. I really look up to you, and thank you for sharing that, Lauren.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so we're pretty much getting closer towards the end of the show here, Lauren. You have been tremendous. I know you host, I don't know if it's weekly or monthly kind of webinars showing folks how to the US. So can you share a little bit about how they may be able to get in some of these Zoom calls?
Sure, of course. So it's very easy to find us. Literally everywhere. It's on the brand Investing Across Borders, like on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. We have a group called Canadians Investing in and Immigrating to the US. I think you're a member of Jefferson. You can find us. Our masterclasses are investingacrossborders.net/masterclass. We have one on Tuesday, and you guys should come for sure. So everything we do is like investingacrossborders.net/whatever. Okay, we have a resources page. It's investingacrossborders.net. Guess what? /resources. Now I'm going to make sure as I'm saying this. Yep, that's it. /resources. And we have tons of downloads on there, including how to successfully invest in US real estate, how to immigrate through real estate, 10 steps to immigrate through real estate. And they're all free. We have a YouTube channel, again, Investing Across Borders, where we have I have a podcast, which is quiet right now, but we'll be back in full swing in the fall, called, imagine this, Investing Across Borders. And one day we'd love to have you guys on the show. And all of our shows are also posted on YouTube. So our YouTube channel is very active.
Absolutely. Awesome. We would be thrilled to be there. I think we have a very common goal, which is helping Canadians invest in the US. Now, obviously, we also work with Americans that invest passively in the multifamily properties that we acquire. But I think kind of like we have the same vision as per the US and the opportunities. Now, I know you're doing it globally, where you're helping people not only in Canada, but like you mentioned, Colombia, Costa Rica, and that's actually something that we've kind of started exploring. Is kind of, there's a lot of capital in some of these countries. Like, we're from Colombia, right? We were just down there not long ago. And we realized there's a lot of capital. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the US is the 4th or 5th, like their top 10 people that invest mostly in the US. I think that Canada's like one of the top, but I know Canada's like, I know Colombia's 5th or 6th, if I'm not mistaken, which I thought was just mind-blowing. Again, not to get political, but there's a lot of stuff going on in Colombia where people don't want to invest there because of the leadership. So they're looking for alternatives, and the US like we mentioned earlier, the opportunities there are endless, right? So that's really interesting from that perspective as well. Okay, so again, Lauren, we just want to express our gratitude for joining us today and sharing so much valuable insights with our audience on international investments and immigration. I know your expertise has been remarkable, and we're very excited to continue working with you. And I'm sure the listeners got a lot of value. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's great to meet you, John, and it's great to see you again, Jefferson. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of chances to work together and collaborate in the near future.
And yeah, we will be attaching all your social media links attached, so you guys can also get that information right through there. So again, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more valuable discussions on real estate investment strategies in future episodes. Don't forget to join our newsletters or updates on our live webinars. We're having one tomorrow. We do our also monthly meetups, and then we also have a special guest like Lauren on our podcast, so make sure to check out some other episodes. Follow us on social media for daily tips and insights. Visit Ortiz Equity Group for more information.